Hey guys, how's it going today? In Revenge of the Sith, once Anakin and Palpatine killed Mace Windu, Order 66 was given. Now this was a direct order to kill all Jedi and those who practiced treason against the Empire. All clones throughout the galaxy were on missions with the Jedi generals, and this was what made it so easy for them to execute them. It's kind of like playing hide and go seek without a countdown or allowing the person next to you to go hide, so it's like, hey, we're playing, I found you. Therefore, Order 66 was extremely effective as it wiped out 99% of the Jedi, as we saw. In The Bad Batch, Episode 12, we saw something pretty remarkable. The clone Captain Howzer Ballast was able to change the minds of his fellow brothers by reasoning with them. It's something that hasn't been seen before, at least to success, where clones under the influence of Order 66 actually put their blasters down and consciously overrode Order 66. Many might question why this was done so easily for Howzer. Does he possess some sort of Jedi mind trick that the other clones don't? I really don't think so. Rather, I think the only reason they were able to override their chips was because their chips weren't fully enacted. And I say this because of the simple fact that Jedi weren't on Ryloth that we know of during this time for them to go all insane. It's the Jedi that Order 66 really focuses on. That being said, good soldiers follow orders. So I'm also a little bit confused as to just how these clones were able to drop their blasters while some of the others didn't. You know, Wrecker went absolutely insane and there were no Jedi around. So it raises the question, are all clone brains made the same? Personality-wise, definitely not, but even structurally, on a biological level, they're not really one-to-one clones like a droid would be, let's say. They each have their own different mutation, I believe, and some look different, while other clones, like Clone Force 99, exhibit powers, like Wrecker's strength, for instance, or Crosshair's precision. I believe all clones are extremely different, in and out, sort of, more so on the in. We could also raise the question as to perhaps the inhibitor chip wearing off over time, seeing as how this is now what I would assume several months after Order 66, after Revenge of the Sith, meaning several months after Ahsoka and Rex were fighting Jesse and the rest of the 501st in the Clone Wars Season 7. I think had Ahsoka not been next to Rex on that ship in the Clone Wars, then we could have had a very different turnaround. I think Ahsoka being a Jedi was what made Jesse see Rex as a treasonous person and caused their fight. Had she not been there, Rex might have been able to convince them of their odd behavior. Then again, had Ahsoka not been there, Rex would still have his chip. We also have to remember Maul was on that ship, and he was rebellious against the Empire while not necessarily being a Jedi, of course, but a Force user nonetheless, which could be perceived as all under the same umbrella to ignorant beings, such as, a clone who doesn't know the intricacies of a Jedi versus a Sith, let's say. It makes me wonder, though, if a Jedi were to show up to those clones on Howzer's team, would Order 66 be enacted upon by them, including Howzer himself? Does Howzer demonstrate a possibly more cognitively developed clone that can demonstrate autonomous thinking and questioning instead of the way clones were bred, which was to obey orders? Another thing that I'd like to mention about Episode 12 is that now that we see different clones are able to think critically and override their orders to certain extents, and again, I say extent because, well, we haven't really tested the chips to their full use. That being, if a Jedi were in the vicinity and a clone full-on dropped their blaster and said no to Order 66, then we know they can power over this chip. Otherwise, as of right now, we just know they're able to override following mundane orders the Empire tells them, which isn't necessarily using the inhibitor chip's powers to full use. How many other clones like this are in the galaxy? Does this demonstration show us a foreshadowing of Gregor and Wolffe? Will we learn about their story in Season 2, or is there still time for that? I think things will start to ramp up quite fast now that we're in the end game of the show, with only a few episodes left. So it really makes me wonder, had Ahsoka not been there on that ship, would Rex be able to bring Jesse around and the rest of the 501st? Would they be able to understand that, hey, something is really going on here? Or would they just not even question anything because, well, there were no Jedi around? Or, again, would they be executing Order 66 on Maul because they felt that he was a Jedi or, some sort of Force user that was against the Empire, which he was. So let me know what you guys think about these clones disobeying Order 66 in a sense, and I also want to get your consensus on the fact that do you think Order 66 is a clone just not following orders of the Empire that they're told? Or do you think a clone under Order 66 is essentially just killing Jedi? Do you think that's the only purpose for the chip itself? We've seen both sorts of demonstrations. I mean, with Cut Lawquane, he didn't even get Order 66. But then with Wrecker, he got Order 66 and no Jedi were around. It was just his team, and he was ready to eliminate all of them, regardless of there being any sort of immediate threat. Now, Crosshair, on the other hand, executed Order 66 while a Jedi was around, so it also begs the question, if they never came across a Jedi, would Crosshair even be exhibiting any sort of weird personality disorder or something that's completely different, akin to what he actually is like? And now I'm going to go off into a little bit of a tangent about Crosshair. I believe that he doesn't have the effects of Order 66 enacting on his brain anymore after the blast and the damage that he received to his head. I think it's actually been burnt out, or it's malfunctioned in some sort of sense. I just don't see that chip still being able to be fully functional while that blast went off and all the heat and the damage. I mean, it left a pretty massive scar and deformity on his head, which I'm sure he had to undergo extensive back-to-tank sessions in order to repair and recover himself. I feel like the chip is probably just melted into his mind, and it's either killing him slowly, or he's just under his own influence of whatever he wants to do, and Order 66 has no bearing on him anymore. He just legitimately hates his brothers, and he hates the Jedi, and he just doesn't want them to be around anymore. Or if they're going to join him, they might as well do it quickly, because he's about to go kill them now after we saw in episode 12. I think Crosshair is just that kind of dude where he's just, he's that brother that while he may love his brothers, he just kind of hates them at the same time. He finds them subordinate, and if we kind of look at things, he doesn't really have any crazy powers like the other ones do. I mean, he's just a really good sharpshooter, but how many good sharpshooters are around in Star Wars? There's a lot, you got Boba, you got Jango, you got Cad Bane, you got Fennec Shand, you got several people who are great with blasters and guns, essentially, sharpshooters. So while he is gifted in that sense, he's not like a Wrecker where he's got, hulkish strength, or he's not like a Hunter where he can sense electromagnetic fields out throughout the galaxy, or out on the planet that he's on, I should say. And he's not like Tech, where he's this extremely brilliant mind that has a proclivity to understand every sort of technical circuit board or technical item or any sort of electronic device, the ins and outs of it, just by looking at it. So I could understand that he feels maybe a little bit subordinate to his brothers, being like, well, all I can do is just shoot stuff. And I mean, I'm really good at it. It's kind of like Deadshot, but I honestly don't think he's even as good as Deadshot from DC. I don't know. But either way, I just don't think that he really likes his brothers anymore, and I don't think that he's actually under the influence of Order 66. So turning him back will be something that's going to be much more difficult than just not having Jedi around, or, not wanting to follow orders anymore, because he's now got motive, an emotional motive, I believe, and I could be totally wrong. Maybe Order 66 is still going off in his head, but I think that for him, there's a little more emotional trauma that he needs to psychologically understand, and I'm excited to see where the story goes. I think he's eventually going to save his brothers, and he will be the last one to actually help them. Maybe the Empire goes up against the Bad Batch or some sort of thing, and perhaps Cad Bane is just about to fire and kill them, and he's got the drop on them, and he sees this happening in real time. He's looking at his brothers about to get assassinated, and he looks at Cad Bane and he takes the shot and he saves his brothers, and then maybe Vader comes in and absolutely just kills him. And this could be, the perfect redemption for Crosshair, but he's now dead. So who knows? Who knows what happens here? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about all of these different theories. Does Order 66 have to do with killing Jedi only, or is it about following orders, and any order at that? Thanks for your time. Catch you in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you always.